Good morning. We're already jamming out to a pretty cool MSU. This actually sounds like DKC music. I believe Shady's got some pretty dang good taste here. Well, welcome to actually one of an early morning a Rando Land broadcast here for main Link to the Past main tournament, round of 64, first round of brackets. So man, we've got some amazing heavy hitters here from the EU. Teto versus Shady. Best of three series gonna be a pretty dang amazing time because these two are probably one of the best runners that we have. I am Claire Mouse. I am joined by the one, the only Arier, who's actually already advanced himself into the round of 32. Arier, how's it going? Ready to go?
It's going great. I'm so looking forward to this race. Two great buds. Those great results in the past. Like Teto has been on fire the past few months. Shadyforce. Shadyforce has been making it very deep in past tournaments as well. So yeah, super great matchup. It's gonna be inverted key sanity, which might throw the runners up for a little bit of a loop. But yeah, I guess we're off. Both with the standard Link's House start, because, well, Dark Sank doesn't exist because of the flute start.
I was gonna say, so we already have progression straight out of Link's house, or in this case, the Bee's house or Joker's house. But yeah, I think you mentioned before, right? Yeah, the Sank start ever since, specifically for in tournament inverted keys, where of course it is inverted, it is key sanity, but of course an added bonus is that we get a starting flutes. No real reason in this case to lay, getting in this case like extra stuff. Already going over to the Meyer areas, if we pick up a couple extra goodies, we have a small theater to rock and map to Eastern. And yeah, sometimes typically, some people like to start in regular inverted at the Sanctuary, start to kind of go over there to Village of Outcast, Skull Woods, maybe to Karma Farm out a couple of money, resources, bombs. No real reason, as you mentioned, right? Because we get a starting flute, we can just literally flute exactly over there, just like the GD's doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's it causes for some interesting early game sequences. It does make it a little bit more linear because there's no real reason not to just check a few isolated checks for some bombs or money, like you said. But I'm sure we will be going very weird places very soon.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and actually, as kind of in the pre-race room, Teto and Shady, we were all locking their deck, and inverted keys actually was the most populous. So certainly not too surprising. In this case, that they ended up drawing it for this particular match. But of course, that kind of indicates that they probably haven't really played it too much this, this tournament. And so yes, as you said, Ari, this is going to be very, very interesting indeed to kind of see. Not only key sanity isn't, inverted keys especially doesn't actually come up that often.
Yeah, so standard inverted keys has been played a little bit. Also, I think it's been ladder mode for a while, but the flute start just changes things up so dramatically. And oh wow, Shady actually does the Dark Sank start. Well, way to prove us wrong, I suppose.
we're getting some this is top round of 64. We're expecting some bonus content here from runners. But yeah, Shady, oh man, this is actually very classic, actually, kind of throwback to regular inverted, but Shady's using some pretty good game knowledge with that glove. You don't often get to see this. There are some nice 50-50 bombs right here in that giant arrow of rocks.
Huge heads-up play for Shady. Being able to get some bombs, go straight to Hype Cave, get the big first chunk of items.
Yeah, and especially, it tends to be sometimes inverted just because that, oh man, there are also bombs here in the tree pools as well. But yeah, so, kind of, because the early Dark World is somewhat, limited in scope, especially, our goal in this case, of course, being inverted, is that we're trying to look for Light World access, though sometimes the game can certainly tend to funnel in a lot of early progression just because, you don't really have many options other than, kind of getting to the next, logical step, which of course, that Moon Pearl is certainly going to open up actually quite a bit when we get over to the Light World.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's probably going to just be one or two big items that are gonna lead us to a few places that, because of key sanity, we probably cannot complete. But yeah, the early glove and roll, we might actually get some really early Light World access, and then all bets are off. We're gonna be cross-eyed from all the different checks we're gonna have to follow up.
Yeah. Well,
Teto did a couple of archery games just to get a lot of money. Oh, okay.
yeah. Well, speaking of light world area, we got a hook shot already. So we're still missing some logical light world mountain access because we do need to go rescue the old man. Or actually, no, actually we don't. We actually just walk up there. Yeah, with the hook shot and with the flute, we can basically just go directly over there.
And some more money.
Yeah, excellent. Some more money. I'm actually watching Shady kind of do the same thing. Very astute in that this is also a very classic inverted stop for both our runners. Of course, everyone, if you know kind of like the trick in order to kind of farm out the arrow game, kind of just like stand right next to like the guy and just kind of shoot, and you can basically get a perfect score every single time. And of course, for both Shady and for Teto, they don't know that there's a 300 rupee just kind of sitting at the dig game, so maybe they don't need to farm as much money, but certainly that early money, in order to get them to the dig game, is really going to be very helpful.
Yeah, for sure, and it's just so important to have a little bit of an early buffer because of like digging game, chest game. Also, in these modes, it's not that unlikely that you have to enter pod pretty early. So just taking a little bit of time to farm some money.
Yes, speaking of money, we also do see in this case, Teto's going to buy some bombs as well. Yeah, especially, this is also one, something that in general should be more conscious of. Early game inverted especially, people are not joking when they, in this case, need a couple of extra early resources. As you mentioned, you had a laundry list of, money needs, like for example, right?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah. Shady's route just seems a little bit more efficient early on, just being able to have the heads-up knowledge of getting the bombs from that arrow, and then having the lucky tree pull as well, just to make sure that he doesn't actually have to buy any.
So speaking of, Teto's gonna hope to press his own luck. Unfortunately, no 50-50 bomb from the bushes, but does get into the brewery and get, just a little bit of money. So yeah, thanks to the 300 from dig game, a little bit of extra farming, from the arrow game, I don't think we're gonna have too many money issues.
No, we should be pretty set for now. There is very likely to be another 300 pretty soon, and the only big expense that we have left is Sora, which is still a little bit in the future. Alright, Teto finding out about the bomb triple as well, which is probably a pretty nice surprise, regardless. And yeah, after this, I suppose, both runners will feel pretty inclined to go up to Death Mountain, because Hookshot Cave, Super Bunny are in logic, and then also the entirety of Light Death Mountain.
Okay, so Ari, a question. So you just actually talk about having mountain access, right? And you just actually another like gigantic set of items, right? You mentioned Paradox Cave, Super Bunny, Hookshot. Would you in this case like rescue the old man? Well, I guess Teto's doing that immediately, but I guess like is that something that might be like more of like a focus?
No, probably not. I would probably just leave that until I have a sword or something. Teto does drop a few bombs just to like kind of echolocate himself. For me, it's not as comfortable to do it without something to carry around.
Okay.
And it does take a long while to actually get yourself all the way up the mountain and then down the mountain.
Yeah, and I was also going to wonder that in general, right? Just because you mentioned, starting flute does change, quite a bit of things, right? So typically, if you don't have a starting flute or you can't, find a flute, this early, is that in order to actually get over to, up the mountain, you actually you're forced to rescue the old man, right? So you kind of have to, invest some time into, doing your good deed for the day and walking him all the way. So, while watching Teto do this, all the way up the mountain, go to the light world, walk him all the way down the mountain, right? In order to drop him to his home, and then we can get up here. But with the flutes, we can bypass like that entire thing.
Yeah, and sometimes you can even wait until you have the mirror, and then mirror in front of the cave, rescue the old man, and then immediately go into the light world.
Oh.
And that saves a little bit of a trip as well.
Yeah, it looks like actually Teto, was trying to kind of farm out a heart or two. Oh, thank you, Hark and Tater. Really would like to not die here in Death Mountain. And and this is also another one of those, we are starting in the Dark World in Inverted with only 3 hearts, as we typically do whenever we start up a new seed. But of course, Dark World enemies, or enemies in general, don't really care where you start, especially, in Dark World where everything still kind of hits for basically 2 hearts. Death Mountain is quite dangerous, with all the boulders and the dead rock. So Teto had to be taking a little bit of caution here.
Yeah, and in that sense, it makes a lot of sense that Teto actually does the light world checks first. Maybe just to get a way to get past the linos that are on top of Death Mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like I was gonna say, so Shady, coming up here to the mountain has a very similar thought. You mentioned, with his hook shot, and with the moon pearl. But yeah, it looks like he is actually going to delay, or maybe we'll never see the old man. At least on his side temporarily. So actually, yeah, just kind of like that major difference, right? Is basically, Shady is like, pixels behind Teto, basically going into the light world.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that Shady just completely skipped Specrock Cave because that was like right next door.
That's true.
Like not rescuing the old man is one thing, but okay, well there's our light world access. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I guess we're following the logic here. So we have Mitt's Mitt's light world access. So given that, we would still like to find that hammer relatively soon.
Yeah, for sure. Hammer is. Oh, okay. Those are some boots. Hammer locks a lot of weird isolated locations. Oh wow, book as well.
Oh man, yeah, we've got Paradox Cave. I guess good decision for coming up here. At least maybe first, because we're both Shady and Teto now finally get to move. Actually, not even finally. We're 10 minutes in. We found those boots. We would like a sword, please. That would make everything, I think, super comfy at this point.
Yeah, this is definitely a very item-focused start. Usually, you get a pretty solid mix of items and keys, but yeah, just
yeah. Actually, yeah, you actually do bring up a good point. So like one of the, another features of Inverted is that the early game especially, just tends to be, pretty difficult, right? Because you could, maybe get forced into doing like 3 hard or maybe 4 hard green mail, a blind fight, a hammer blind fight, or maybe like the Cane of Verna, or you have to go find Mothula, right? Because your only major source of progression, or if that's in the item pool, are only items, right? But of course, from Inverted Key Sanity, everything else is shuffled in, right? Maps, compasses, small keys. Does give you a little bit more buffer. But you did have an interesting observation. Maybe outside of a couple of small keys, we don't really have actually much else. Oh, Shady.
Yeah, I don't think there was a lot to do after doing Smurl Cave anyway, so I don't think he minds too much. Unless I'm forgetting about something, but who knows. Okay, but we're still leaving Dark Death Mountain for what it is and go straight into Kakariko, so I guess we're just gonna have a little bit more sync.
Yeah. Yes, please, Shady. Both runners, both Teto and Shady are going to take a bit of solace into the light world. Of course, now, you wouldn't even know necessarily it was inverted. Looking at, Teto and Shady's screen, we're here. Well, I mean, unfortunately, on 1 heart on each side, but, Kakariko, 3 or 4 hearts, very, around the 10-minute mark. Certainly nothing to be surprised about.
Teto beelining it to K45?
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Because typically, especially coming in with Mitt's access to the light world, you would probably dive into like the Blind's huts. Maybe maybe Teto just wanted to get a couple of extra hearts.
Yeah, maybe he wants to go to the north and doesn't really want to isolate like part of the world.
Oh yeah, that's also a very good point. Yeah. So once in this case, we made it to the light world. So at least typically in a non-inverted scene, right? You're thinking about doing things like light world is kind of walled off, right? You got some like a lot of sphere 1 checks, but once we kind of get here in inverted, the entire light world basically is open to us just because we have so much access, right? So part of the interesting part, especially with overworld routing, is how efficiently can you do this? It looks like actually, yeah, you might actually be exactly correct, Ari. Like he wants, in order to not, basically do most of the Kakariko area checks, and then kind of make his way up maybe to like, a graveyard ledge or something like that.
Well, there's the hammer. Okay, so
the hammer, jeez.
Now the entire world is our oyster.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay, so here you see Shady kind of splitting up Kakariko in half, doing the two big 5-item checks, and then going into Lost Woods, and he might continue over to Bonk Rock's Graveyard Ledge King's soon backup escape as well, and then come back for the rest of Kakariko later in order to continue to Cave 45 and South Shore and all that.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like actually Sick Kid with the bottle that, at least the first bottle I think they ended up picking up in Hype Cave, will actually give us a little bit of extra armor today. So certainly going to be, no one's going to turn that down, especially, you know, only on 3 and 5 hearts. But of course, I think probably maybe from, you know, Shady and Teto's perspective, we would like to really see that mirror. It's just because we're still kind of, you know, while we would like some protection, let's say on the overworld, death warping and traversing dungeons certainly would really benefit from being have something, you know, like for example, like death warping.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna see an early pet check, so maybe that was kind of Shady's idea. Maybe we'll just save and quit out of here. No, just dash back. Kind of interested seeing what his route will be from now on. We did also find a Tower of Hera small key, which is definitely one of the small keys we don't want to find.
Yep. Well, thankfully, or maybe not thankfully, I'm not sure yet, you know, we don't have a fire source. You know, no lamp, no fire rod means that tower, that small key isn't really going to do us too much good, but it certainly does make you a bit more suspicious, certainly. Because, you know, certainly we know that, well, we logically speaking, right, the lamp does have to show up at some point. Maybe, you know, our runners will just never find it, because you kind of see how confident they are in dark rooms. But it is certainly something to be mindful about.
Certainly love seeing a small key on Lumberjack.
Oh, yeah. Now, of course, you know, this is inverted key sanity tournament settings. Unlike the tournament key sanity setting, everything is shuffled with, you know, no restrictions, right? So, you know, that means that both Castle Tower small keys are still going to be somewhere in the pool, and, you know, the hope, of course, is that you're basically never gonna have to find the second one or something like that.
The first one is a-okay, and it's like, okay, sure, I can check both chests, get both items. Once the second one appears, you're just gonna keep thinking, when should I do that?
Yeah.
What small key am I going to need? Yeah.
Yes.
Alright, so aside from the hammer that we found, there are like no major leads so far. Teto also going into Lost Woods, probably checking pet, and then kind of following Shady's suit.
Yeah. This is right, and I think, you know, both kind of like runners thinking, you know, that they don't really want to isolate, especially any too many areas here in the light world. Yeah. Certainly very, very prudent of them. It looks like actually Shady, again, you know, this is inverted light world routing. You know, a lot of muscle memory, you know, can be, you know, kind of like a trap, you know, just because I think, you know, for example, backup escape actually is somewhere that's very common, right? It's like, oh, okay, I'll just start at, you know, light world sanctuary, run down, get to the backup escape, and then save and quit if I don't need to. So that's really, you know, that's not really an option here in inverted, because you don't get the light world sanctuary save and quit start point. You only have to have the dark world. So in this case, you just see a lot of runners tend to kind of like drop in and they kind of like have to run out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as you mentioned, you know, the hammer is something that is certainly really nice, not only for light world routing. Ooh, big key to pod, that is one other step closer. You know, we do have a permanent melee weapon, does 10% more damage. But, you know, it was, speaking of, you know, permanent weapons, we're still looking for that source.
Yeah, early boots are definitely nice, but you really want a sword to go along with it, just for convenience sake, really.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you actually even see, like, you know, so Teto also giving us a lumberjack check. He found out about the small key, but, you know, it's like, if you don't have a sword, you have to go like, pick up bushes, right? Because you can't just, like, you know, dash through them and cut them out.
Yeah, especially, like, the checks around Lost Woods are just so annoying without a sword.
And yes, yeah, I was gonna say, and this is not swordless. There's nothing, you know, special about this item pool. It just happens to be in this case that we're not quite fortunate enough in order to find a sword.
Yeah, and it's not like annoying enough that you're going to avoid these checks just because you don't have a sword, but it definitely does cost a little bit of time. Alright, Shady picking up his blue mana, so his survivability is increased massively, but
Yes.
he probably still really wants another heart or two.
Yeah, and of course, right, he is missing the heart container that Teto has from rescuing the old man. So hopefully in this case, both Shady and Teto are going to pick up a little bit of extra more health, at least keep them, slightly more alive in the Dark World. But of course, I think also, in addition to a sword, to kind of make their lives a bit easier, I think a mirror would certainly be quite beneficial.
Yeah, mirror is one of the most important items in Inverted, in my opinion, anyway.
Oh
just
no,
because
that is for sure.
it just makes riding a lot smoother. It gives you access to a couple of areas that otherwise are really awkward to come back to. With the mids, it's not as bad. Like you're able to get to like the desert area pretty fast anyway.
Oh yeah, that's actually a very good point that you bring up. So just like at least for inverted, right? Typically speaking, when we do look for light world access, we do need some combination of like mids, hammer, and pearl. So at least for inverted though, unlike regular, the mids are actually not like strictly required. Sometimes you often see a lot of Cs that only just have like the power glove and the hammer and the pearl. Having mids though, however, especially coupled with that flutes. We have access to like so many other, like light world entry points. As you just mentioned, right? We can basically flute to 6 in the dark world, and then like pick up that rock that typically requires mids in order to get us to desert quickly, right? If you never see those mids, you don't really get kind of like that nice like added benefit for the shortcut.
Yeah, and in hindsight, that kind of makes sense why Teto picked the route that he did, because he can just save and quit out of the north light loop and then go over to the desert area to then continue to the south loop. So he's not really like losing time because of having to go back all the way through Kakariko. He kind of just segments it into 2 halves that way, whilst Shady does it all in like one more fluid motion. And it's kind of hard to say which way actually is faster or saves time. I guess it also depends on like what items you find in the meantime.
Yeah, but I think, yeah, we mentioned, right, so, like, we did kind of find a little bit more, keys, at least, for example, like, Big Key to Pot in Sanctuary, at least on Shady's side. Outside of that hammer, though, I think we're still kind of looking for, some sort of direction, right? Maybe part of the reason why Teto is over here in the Desert Palace area is we do have a book, an early book from Paradox Cave, that is our one and only entry into deserts. Teto, though, right now, maybe he's finished up Bombo's tablet. And then maybe, I don't know if he'll decide to dive into desert, but it's certainly an option.
Yeah, it is an option. I'm not sure how tempting it is without any keys. It's only 2 checks. He already did check the desert ledge as well. There is like one.
Yeah.
There's a little hint.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Alright, so Shady, and soon to be Teto, of course, out here in Light World South Shore, does actually find a next nice piece of a progression item, which is our bow. Bows, of course, are not progressive. Bows are progressive, sorry, in this mode. So it's another one out there, but however, early bow, or at least bow at this point, and coupled with that hammer, with a couple of pod keys, might make that trip a little bit more tempting.
Yeah, 2 pod keys usually is kind of the minimum in order to at least get a dip in. With okay.
Oh,
that's
man.
nice.
Yeah.
Considering we already have the big key, we probably want like 1 or 2 more to be able to at least kill Helma as well, and go through the back. But we don't even know if it's required or not. We haven't done any of the map checks yet. We haven't seen the bomb vendor or Sahasrara.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's also a very good point. Is that because it is key sanity, maps are shuffled within the pool, and so we are not going to know if a crystal, or if a dungeon is a crystal or pendant, unless we find the map and then we do a map check or go inside, or we just outright beat the dungeon itself.
Yeah, we have found a couple of maps though, so I assume that we're going to at least get some semblance of information relatively soon.
Yeah. Waterfall Fairy also giving out a blue potion as well. I mean, I think these guys are going to be pretty healthy. I think that was a pendant at Eastern. Was that right? It was so fast.
I didn't even see.
Okay. All right.
But chat confirms that EP is a pendant, so that's kind of nice.
Yeah.
It does make it a little bit hard to decide when to go in there, though. Like, you have some people who say just go into Eastern when it's key sanity. Some people say just don't go into Eastern if you can't complete it.
Thank you, Zora, for that shovel. Always something that you would really like to, maybe potentially not see, especially in Light World, right? It's not like we can just save and quit to our house, run over to the dig spot. We're here in the Dark World, and we have to, and so kind of, especially after we've done all of like the South Kakariko K45 stuff, dig spot isn't really a place that it's going to be super convenient to get back to.
Yeah, Shady now deciding to rescue the old man. Might do Hera after that. There's 2 checks that we can't get in there, being the basement chest because we don't have the lamp, and the big chest because we don't have the big key. But we can sequence break two checks on top of Hera.
Yeah, that's right.
But that plus Ether tablet, just the information is pretty nice to have.
Yeah, right. And unfortunately, still no sword means that we're still kind of looking for a more permanent weapon. But of course, you did mention we did find a hammer early on, so that is at least a weapon we can end up killing Moldar with.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Shady trying to well, in this case, a very slight difference between I think his trip up here versus Teto. It is that we've got a hook shot now, so Shady's really trying to kind of like oh, Shady, jeez. That large talk was so close, dude. Like, we don't want that in this game. We don't want this trip to be any longer. We're on a mission in order to safely deliver the old man away.
Yeah, that talk is like when you visit your grandmother and you kind of want to like, okay, I kind of need to go back home.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, just stay a little bit longer.
That's right. All right, yeah, it looks like Shady though. Maybe, yeah. Oh, you're taking the heart refill. Yeah. Again, Death Mountain is a pretty, dangerous place to be. But of course, luckily we've got a hook shot and boots, so we can actually take advantage of some hook speed in order to try and get over here.
Yeah, it looks like we're. The problem with inverted is that Hera is such an out of the way check as well.
Yeah, we're watching. Actually, looks like potentially Shady and Teto kind of maybe having similar thoughts. And yes, one of the kind of like major differences, or at least highlighted, here in Inverted is just like the old man ends up taking quite a bit longer time. Even with the mirror, you can't really shortcut your way over Hera because. Well, this is the light world. You can't mirror up in the light world, so the only way to kind of get over there is the longer loop in this case that we're kind of watching Shady do.
Where was the Castle Tower small key that Shady has?
That's a good question. Say.
These cards are the worst.
Well, somewhere I think it was maybe like North Dark World or maybe like Kakariko, or North Light World or Kakariko, I think.
Ah, then I missed what Teto skipped. Anyway, we're gonna see 2 different sides of the mountain. This, where Teto is going, has been in Logic for quite a while now, so it's pretty good to just hedge your bets and check what's here. Both the glove and hookshot were really, really early. Oh, that could be relevant. And could also help a little bit with some enemies. Ice Rod doesn't really like kill a lot, but just being able to freeze and use it as a weapon for other things. And our second bow. Okay.
Oh, well, that's certainly a very nice, offensive upgrade, especially early on. Again, I think you mentioned this earlier. We don't necessarily know which bosses we need to go kill, but kind of, like eyeing. At least, we have 0 dungeons completed. Some bosses like, Vitreous, for example, even like Armos, right? Helma would certainly very benefit from silver arrows.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, nice Harapot setup on Shady's side. Kind of using combination of like bombs and the hookshot in order to get up here. Man, this is kind of one of those times where I think people would really like to have a mirror by now. When we talk about, jeez, these dead rocks are just bullying Teto. But yeah, we half jokingly, talk about how many mountain trips you in this case need in order to, kind of full clear the whole, light and dark Death Mountains. Yeah, especially without the mirror. We're definitely gonna merely need a little bit, like a few more fingers at this point.
Nice fight. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking of where we kind of want to go next. Like, Shady still has the Dark Death Mountain. Teto found the Hyrule Castle small key in Hookshot Cave, which might lead either of them over there, which is pretty reasonable as well. Like, so people usually hesitate going to Hyrule Castle because it is kind of a weird trek in Inverted. Like, unless you do Aga, it's actually pretty hard to get there. But,
yeah.
But getting a small key just like it feels like such a good incentive to try and go there.
Yeah, and especially that small key does make, at least like the inside of Hyrule Castle, routing like a bit nicer, right? Because, I think in non-inverted, right, sometimes when you have the smart castle, it's more of just like minor convenience, I guess, just because you have so many like save and quit options, you can go to the castle pretty easily. But yeah, you mentioned here, in inverted, unless you have basically that nice kind of like that light world portal, I guess, after killing Aga, well, going to the castle itself and the kind of like save and quitting isn't really going to be much of an option. We're seeing actually some differences already with those silver arrows that Shady picked up, versus Teto. Is well, those ball and chain cards die much quicker than normal.
Oh yeah.
Alright, Molder, I'm also actually being pretty generous, to both Teto and Shady. No real drama here. Typically speaking, especially without a sword. Now, only fighting Molder with a hammer, even though you do need, like 3 shots or something like that. He can certainly knock you off, and without a sword to kind of protect you, it can be actually a pretty dangerous situation.
Yeah, it's not an easy fight with the hammer. It can go by very fast, but if you kind of mishandle the situation, it escalates real fast. Teto probably cleaning up the rest of the Light World Death Mountain here with Mimic Cave. And yeah, like, Pod probably seems like a pretty decent option, but what else do we even have at this point? Hyrule Castle, like we were talking about, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like, once we do go over to, like, you also mentioned this earlier, too, like, we do have Eastern Palace available to us. Shady knows that it is a pendant based on his map check. But again, right, like, we don't have the Eastern Palace speaking, and well, it seems like, the opinions around Eastern, I believe also you mentioned, was, it can be quite, polarizing. We do have a longer map check, all these pendants, pendant ice, yeah.
We have our information.
Yeah, it looks like it was a green pendant Ice Palace, it was a red pendant Mire, and a Crystal Skull Woods.
Yeah. So we just do not know our Dark World or our Pyramid Fairy crystals yet. But
speaking of Shady, Teto might be actually giving us information already. Ooh, Pot and Swamp.
Yeah, we are flippers a mirror away from that then, and like a lot of keys that we
Yeah, the keys in this case, yeah, you mentioned right early on, it was a lot of like, we got a front loaded with a lot of progression items. So many different things kind of showed up, right? Gloves, mitts, pearl, boots, hammer, hookshot. Honestly, like the number of keys that we got were a little bit on the lower side, and so now, kind of drawing up, I would say, like the major progression items. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get a bit more number of keys, so we can at least make some more progress inside the dungeons themselves.
Yeah, we definitely still need a solid amount of keys as well.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I say that, but we already have GT Big Key. We only need Desert and Thieves Town Big. And then it's just a couple of small ones. We don't even need all the Turtle Rock small keys, for example, just because it's inverted. That helps alleviate a lot of the necessary keys for sure.
Yeah. We would really like a mirror, thank you. So certainly, we know that, at least from Teto's side, that, Swamp Palace is a crystal, so we are going to have to find that mirror at some point, and yes, and because we're going to have that mirror available to us at some point, being able to, use the mirror to kind of backdoor into Turtle Rock certainly does mean that the pressure in order to find, like, the standard, 3 or 4 keys needed for Turtle Rock is going to be quite reduced.
Yeah.
Alright, so Teto here in the front of Escape, yeah, we found Powder. That is also another available check to us now. Of course, I'm being on, 8 hearts at this point, and Blue Mail, maybe Teto isn't as concerned with safety, but certainly Powder's going to be a really nice kind of like backup in order to, get some anti-fairies and a little bit of extra health in dungeons.
Yeah, it's just a nice safety to have in a couple dungeons, and it's another check that he might be able to combine with the Smith Chain that is accessible as well.
Ooh, alright, so speaking of a little bit of diversions, Shady has decided to, in this case, invest his time over here. Hopefully, he paid 500 rupees for this shovel. Hopefully it's going to be, something worthwhile.
Oh. Oh.
Can we put it back? Like, there's some dirt over there, we can just, like, cover up that, we can just cover up that big key, no worries.
There are some things that should not be dug up.
And of course, you're right, Shady, Shady knowing that Meyer is a pendant, these are kind of like some of the big keys that you don't necessarily, want to see.
Yeah. There are arguments to be made for not even checking what you need for the Pyramid Fairy now, but because you already have so much information, but just getting the confirmation is nice. It might, like, make him prioritize a couple of checks.
Yeah.
So the Hellcastle small key actually didn't really give us anything.
Yeah, so far.
Because Powder was not behind it, and neither is Dark Cross in here. So, well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We're still
who knows?
But we're still missing, a fire source, and either the fire rod or the lamp would actually put, Dark Cross in logic. We're obviously, we're not seeing anything on Tato's side, but it's because just he's very, very confident in this case, for doing dark rooms. So he's trying to locate, that last chest with some arrows, just 20 rupees, but at least, we've at least full cleared, in this case, another kind of region of Light Worlds.
Yeah. But we don't have any... Yeah, I keep coming back to Pod, but I do think that it's our densest amount of locations right now, even if it does mean that you're going to isolate a couple of checks.
Alright, so speaking of, this looks like it's going to be, without the mirror, unfortunately, we can't just end up going over to Kakariko. We are going to see the mirrorless, at least first section of the Smith Chain from Teto. I'm not really sure what's considered to be worse. They seem to be still pretty even when it comes to the amount of trips you need to basically make back into the Kakariko area in order to turn in the Smith.
Yeah, I think without the mirror, I actually think that it is better in inverse.
So sad. This is where the bar is, sadly. Alright, so it looks like there's Teto kind of getting the same information. Oh yeah, good on him, basically to stop his dash a little bit early so he doesn't end up kind of like having to force some interactions with the dashing kid. But yeah, he also knows that Eastern is a pendant and Desert's a crystal for him.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see a race where the information isn't equal, but can also cause for some pretty frustrating losses.
Yeah, Shady's really taking advantage of these silver arrows that are picking up too. Just using them everywhere. Alright, is Magic Bat here going to pay off?
Yep,
Oh, it
sure
does?
is.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. In terms of like just like logically speaking, right? Sorry. So Fire Rod here is behind the powder. Of course, powder we know is in the front of Escape, which of course is totally illogical once we got into the light world. But yeah, just thinking about having to go back then, like to get the Fire Rod and have to go back to Kakariko Castle just in order to get what's inside Dark Cross. It's like man. Good thing both Teto and Shady know how to do dark rooms.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so we're actually... I had a hard time following like what checks are one player has done and the other hasn't. I think at this point we kind of followed up on each other's route quite well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shady has like the Skullwoods checks over Teto, if anything.
Yeah, it's certainly been pretty even. It looks like Teto is also giving himself the rest basically of the map check information. But yeah, like there has been kind of like some more I would say like minor divergences between Teto and Shady, but it's really just kind of like doing A and then B versus then like B and then A. It's not like but in this case like the item and key layouts have been pretty similar. And and speaking of more similarity stuff, it looks like Shady and Teto are basically having a very similar idea. Looks like we're going to go to the Eastern Palace area, and Teto's going to go over to Eastern first. Shady's going to go visit Saha.
Eastern before Saha.
I
Okay.
know, very interesting. Because there are going to be like 3 fast items here, and I guess like if you find the Eastern Palace big key here, I would imagine you would be inclined to finish the dungeon.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like at this point, you're not too. Oh well.
I mean... that's a pretty dang nice item, which is the mirror.
All right then. Shady is still doing Eastern though. That's a little interesting. I would think that other opportunities are maybe a little bit more tempting. Just going into pod first. Or even like the Smith chain is a lot faster. You can, and then if you find the fire rod, then like Turtle Rock is basically full clearable.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, we did find the big key to Turtle Rock pretty early, which actually could be an elusive big key, but actually with 2 small Turtle Rock keys, especially on Shady's side, and the mirror, and of course we do know on Tato's side that the fire rod was locked behind the powder. But yeah, like that is actually a very viable place to go. We don't in this case like need to go to the front or anything like that. Shady. I think probably just a little bit ahead of himself, and remembering that he does need, of course, to hit the switch in order to get over here to the map chest. Now I guess like Ari, like the fact that we now know that pot is a crystal. Like with 2 small keys, like would you just go back and like rush Homicide?
No.
Get a crystal? Okay. In this case...
That's actually a pretty good question. What I might do in that case is like go through right side and then just do 2 loops there and then go to Helma after. Or like, yeah, maybe go right side, go rush Helma. It's kind of hard to say. It's really hard to do both the back and Helma with 2 keys.
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of curious. Yeah, you're right. I mean, especially, I guess, like, we're almost at, like, the 45-minute mark, so I guess maybe this is considered to be, like, mid-game. It is, like, at this point, like, are you kind of still trying to prioritize, like, more item checks? For example, like, pod is certainly, very available to us, but also at the same time, we do need at least, like, 1 key in order to kind of get back to Helmasaur for a crystal. So I'm just kind of curious to see, like, where kind of, like, the priorities are.
Yeah. Like, at this point in the race, I would definitely still be in just pure efficiency and be okay with leaving Helma behind just because there are still 4 pod keys in the world. But like in Tato's case, like he is getting deceptively close to go mode at this point. Like he only needs like Desert Big, Thiefstone Big, and Flippers.
I would also like to see a sword or two. You know, that's just personal, but you know, maybe Teto and Shady would also share the same sentiment.
Those are implied.
Alright. So yeah, actually, just kind of like maybe I'm not sure if this is gonna be a consequence. Ooh, Shady. Are we gonna? How is this portal gonna work? Do you know? Is he gonna get sucked back in?
Okay.
Oh wow. Apparently that bomb ricochet, I guess, like kind of gave him, just knocked him straight out of the portal.
Yeah. It's a little lucky. Why are they both using bombs instead of a small ray of luck? Come on.
Maybe bombs were just slightly closer to being quick swapped over.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, we're gonna see what these runners prioritize at this point. No, they're not even gonna bother with, like, at least Shady is not gonna bother with saving a key. So he actually has to choose between either or. There's not a terribly small chance that there is actually a pod small key in the back either, though. So.
Oh yeah, that's actually a very good point. It's certainly no surprise, of course, that we see at least one pod key here in pod. Alright, looks like the Teto's actually taking a very similar route, just going over to like the block side maybe a little bit earlier. The Teto.
Yeah, Teto might actually consider just taking a little bit of extra time and saving the key, just to do the back end Helma. And maybe he'll even skip like the front checks of pod, just because they take so long to keep going around, and it causes an extra right side trip. Teto does like playing aggressive at times, so it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, and certainly against, you know, a pretty, you know, worthy adversary like Shady. You know, I guess I'm not sure like how much either like Shady or Teto kind of metagames against each other, but certainly I can certainly see that on Teto's side. Oh, hello, Bombos. Alright, so at least from Shady's perspective, that is a potential entry into Ice Palace for him. You know, of course, we know that, of course, you know, Teto does have the Fire Rod from Magic Path. Not sure if that will kind of lure Shady, you know, into Ice Palace. We're still missing the flippers for kind of like quote-unquote logical access. Hello, Lamp.
Okay. Well, that's nice to have, especially for Shady.
Oh yeah, that's true. You know, of course, we're actually going to be able to see everything that is also going back here. But also, yes, more importantly, also probably for Shady, that is his actually fire source as well. So it's really going to give him a bit more access, you know, to like, for example, like torches. Speaking of lighting torches, do you remember that we found a small key to Hera very early on?
Yeah, and that both of them have isolated it really hard at this point. Yeah. Like, for all Shady knows, though, like, this lamp is still out of logic, so he's just mentally checking it off for now. He had a, little unfortunate accident with that he killed the mini Helma, and that kind of caused an offset with the bomb explosion.
Oh, really? Okay.
Meanwhile, Teto is going straight to Helma after doing the front. And then we'll see if he decides to go to the back after. Kind of looks like it with the way he's avoided the front door so far.
Alright, small key to skull was on Shady's side. And yeah, so right, so as it's right, a part of the consequence actually we're kind of seeing on Teto's side is that because he hasn't gone into the back, he has not picked up the lamp. So he does the fire rod to kind of help him out in this this next room with Dark Turtles if he really needs to. But it's going to be a little bit more of a difference, you know, just in terms of like kind of getting over to Helmasaur. No sword means that we don't quite have the luxury, I guess, of swinging thing. I guess I'm curious to see if Teto knows about hook speed. In this case, you can activate it with the hook shot and boots in order to kind of give himself a better usage of that hammer.
Yeah, maybe he does, but at least we have silver, so it's not as relevant in this case. Like, the extended hitbox is kind of nice to have for the first phase, but it's not as important as it would be for the second one.
Yeah.
Also, a very early accessible check here from Shady. That is just it's so easy to put off for the longest time. We also haven't seen Pyramid yet, which is a little bit of an infamous check in
Inverted, that's true. That's true. Oh, no memories about anything on the pyramid, right, Harry?
No.
No, nothing. I've been there.
But yeah, speaking of, I think we're seeing that from Shady right now. We need to be
yes,
careful, though.
please. Now, Shady does have blue mail, as we've actually seen from. Actually, didn't even mention Nervin Deutsch doing some amazing tracking work for us today. Like, we've gotten so much stuff. Everything is actually lit up pristinely, so thank you so much. Yeah, so Shady is not well. Maybe with the Snapdragon Season 1 PKO mode, but at least he won't necessarily die outright from like the moblins. Oh, nice use of that hook shot in order to get the fairy. Yeah, Shady has no interest in dying here.
Teto, open the door and then.
No.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh, he might never get. Oh, I guess. Oh, that's an awkward small key to find for Shady right now as well.
Man.
Okay, but it does look like. No, it doesn't look like he's gonna go to the Smith chain. I don't know what Shady wants to do here though. Like, the only thing that's really close is the powder check, which would be great for him. Like, especially if he's able to. Oh, never mind. He has the mirror, so he can easily grab the Smith from the light world.
Mm-hmm. This is gonna be some pretty, you talk about like routing efficiency, right? Kind of unlike Teto, who didn't have the mirror earlier on because it was in the back of Sahashala. He was kind of only able to do like the first chain, I guess, just like brusking the Smith, right? And then he kind of combined that with like the powder and the shovel check. Shady is going to be able to go a little bit further.
Did I miss there being something on Bumper Ledge?
Is this a blind check? This would not be a blind check, right?
Oh, there was a small key here.
Oh, small key. Okay, great, thank you. Oh, Teto though, back on to the mountain, giving us basically, a backdoor into Turtle Rock. Certainly very viable, just because you mentioned this earlier, right? Fire Rod, Ice Rod, we got some Mario, we got a big key, we got a small key, Turtle Rock. Teto does be a little bit careful. Well, we just got, okay, well, so...
It's not too costly.
Yeah. I mean, he's literally right here at the safety door. Things will probably be okay, but certainly it's going to be a very, very, very minor type loss, just because you don't want to take the death.
Yeah, but are we going to see, like, a swordless Trinex right now?
Oh, dude. Oh. This would be very interesting.
No.
Okay, alright, so looks like Teto, again, with no lamp, at least, going through this particular dark room on the conveyor belts isn't going to be too bad, just because I believe all you need to do is hold up, and you will be safely, traverse on the other side. And of course, with the mirror, we can basically port back very quickly to do the rest of Turtle Rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, technically, Teto definitely doesn't need the lamp to begin with. That fly route kind of covers all uses. And as long as we don't have to go into Mire, the dark rooms shouldn't be too dangerous at this point anymore either, because Teto already has done Helma, which is like the second worst.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, this is gonna be a very spicy fight from Teto's side, so be sure to pay attention to that, while Shady is getting his fire rod and might follow suit actually. But this is really hard, just not having any of the safety of like a Master Sword. Small margins for error.
Yeah, we are here in the first round of brackets. I mean, this is round of 64. If we're gonna get any type of, unconventional, lowish percent fights, I would absolutely love it in this case to have Teto and Shady demonstrate this for us.
Very good first kill.
Yeah, Teto also taking a little bit of care to try to avoid some damage. Now, he does have blue mail. Things only do 3 hearts of damage, so he's not quite in one-hit KO mode, but, kind of being backed into, against the wall here, especially with ice. Teto certainly being very pragmatic to try and be a bit more cautious.
Very clean. Very nice.
Yeah,
just
that was
taking
really
it easy,
nicely done
not
play.
rushing it. So easy to panic when Trinex steps away and just like fire an extra few shots, but Teto just played that.
That was a very well done Trinex fight. I mean, Teto, took his time. And as you mentioned, did not panic. He played the game.
Oh yeah, that's definitely something you want to find.
Yeah. Well, at least it's only the first of our castle tower small keys, so he does, I mean, I guess you technically are still here up on the mountain, but in order to kind of get over there, especially where we are, you know, here in the back of Laser Bridge, or no, actually, no, never mind, we do get to walk to the front, yeah, so it might not be, like, the end of the world. You mentioned that potentially Shady, after finding that fire rod, might have a similar idea. We are back here on the mountain for him.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's just very reasonable. Like with 2 keys, you can practically clear everything. We found out that Toad Rock is crystal.
Yeah, very useful. Thank you, game. Yeah, and of course, you know, with the fire rod, that means that we are going to be able to, you know, light these torches from afar and get to 2 more checks in the roller room. We also do have a hook shot, so you know, all the muscle memory here. We can also just go in the preferred direction, so we don't necessarily have to like turn around because we can't hook ourselves off of the platform in order to take a shortcut back to the door.
Yeah, so easy to forget about that.
Shady also really giving us a demonstration where basically all the fairies are in like the entirety of the game. I'm pretty sure he's visited so many at this point. And just to stay alive, certainly, you know, really great heads-up game knowledge on his part.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely the years of experience showing up right here. Shady getting his 4th pod key, so he probably wants another one just to make sure he can actually full clear pod the next time he goes in there. But it's definitely really a pretty sizable incentive to go back.
Yeah, especially, you know, he also does know that pod is a 5/6 crystal. We are still a flippers away from clearing out Swamp Palace, but kind of like once we ended up finding that, you know, maybe Pyramid Fairy is something that's going to be on his mind as well.
Yeah, the flippers are kind of the thing they're looking for the most right now, that's for sure. Also because it technically locks the Turtle Rock big key that was in Waterfall Fairy.
Oh, right, that's also a really good point as well. Oh man, that mini Helvosaur is such a bully. Didn't even realize he could get so close to you and kind of knock you off there.
Yeah. It's a little RNG dependent. I think we have 1 check left in.
In Turtle Rock, you mean?
Yeah.
Or... Yeah,
I think we only have
actually,
charms.
yeah, that is where Teto is going. I was gonna say, you know, very nice usage on both sides for using that powder because do you really want to come here and face chomps on like 2.5 hearts? Nobody wants to do that, especially when it's kind of actually even getting here for chomps. Try and save his keys. Teto, major find here. Definitely paying off his investment to go all the way back to chomps. Finds the flippers. Well then.
Yeah, Tato's route has been so good. Just being really efficient with a lot of his sequences, and yeah, like he's playing a lot more conservatively than we usually expect from him.
You can't get, you know, 51-39s without being, you know, a bit more aggressive, I guess. Yeah, it looks like there's just actually really clean fight on Shady's side for Trinex as well. But oh my gosh, what a sight for sore eyes! At just under the 57-minute mark, we have found our first sword in Hammer Pegs. Wow.
Shady, why don't you have that? he was here like 3 minutes ago.
Oh, you're right. Oh, dude, you're right. Did we just miss it? Oh my gosh, Shady.
Yeah, Hammer Packs is such an easy mental skip.
Oh yeah.
You're so focused on like powder and Smith Chain, and then Hammer Packs is just kind of on the side, I suppose. But yeah, that might be buried for a while.
Yeah, actually, given you're actually especially right. Given that the fact that we have done everything around that area, you know, we don't even have, you know, kind of like a straggler, you know, left. Maybe he'll get it after Thieves Town. We do know it's a crystal. We're still missing, of course, the Thieves Town Big Key, but maybe we'll go back. But yeah, Hammer Pegs is kind of by itself right now for Shady.
Yeah, and this is the next logical step with those slivers, with the Swamp Small. Just go in there, it's a second Pyramid Fairy Crystal as well, so after this we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, and kind of as expected, you know, Teto here is in Swamp. We don't necessarily have like the Swamp Palace Big King yet. Doesn't look like it's going to deter Teto from, you know, going in here. Certainly not surprising, you know, just because we did find the flippers, and they were in fact pretty dang buried inside Turtle Rock. So it's really very reasonable for him to come here, and you know, we can definitely see from the counter or from the compass that there are 10, well in this case like 9 available checks for us.
Yeah, it's almost a full clear. We're gonna see if Teto decides to do his signature left side swamp skip though.
Oh yeah, that's true. And when Teto was in the 80 Keys tournament, I believe his namesake was very famous for always skip left side swamp, and I actually do believe it burned him probably at least like 2 or 3 times, including having a hook shot over there in left side swamp. So yeah, that's probably not exactly be like the most pleasant of times. Shady, thinking about what he wants to do after getting those flippers.
It was a long deliberation. Like, I think he skipped the middle 2 checks, but yeah, decides to probably just follow those flippers and follow suit in Tato's footsteps right here again. Just minus a sword, and that
oh my god.
Could be a huge deal over the course of the seed.
Yeah, and in fact, assuming, well, okay, so I mean, there's the, you know, the old adage, there's always a sword in Swamp, so at least hopefully maybe Shady, you know, can get upgraded into having a sword, Teto getting his master sword, but we're actually even seeing already, like, some of, like, the minor differences, right? You know, Teto was, with that sword, kind of standard, more like a muscle memory route, you know, down, you know, can dash through everything. Shady kind of has to, like, kind of stop and, like, readjust his dashes, you know, in order to try and avoid, like, the Octoroks, for example. I believe it looks like Teto is sticking true to his namesake. We are at least going to the back of Swamp Palace first, and not necessarily going over to left side.
It's not super unreasonable because we don't need that much anymore. But yeah, we'll have to see how aggressive he's gonna be.
Yeah. I mean, it's still, you know, like a fighter's sword, Argus, isn't really still all that pleasant. But at least this is what Tato's gonna be faced with. But of course, we both saw Shady and Teto take down Trinex with no sword, with just a hammer. Very well done. Certainly would expect Teto to be at least somewhat okay, you know, with this fight.
Yeah, this fight might just be slower. Even if it's a lot less dangerous. Yeah, we'll have to see what Shady does with this fight. If he doesn't find a sword in like the big chest or something, then he might even commit to using silvers. Maybe?
Yeah, that's true. So unfortunately, we do have a red boomerang that we ended up picking up. I think it was maybe like front of escape or something like that. And that we do have one more thing we need to go quick swap over, but you do actually bring up some nice game knowledge as well. The fact that this is actually very random specific, right? It is, you know, if you want to especially avoid like a menu boss with a hammer, you can actually quick swap over to silvers and just hook over a silver, and then each pop will be able to die with silver arrow tips.
Shady going straight over.
Yeah, straight over. He might have more of an incentive, maybe, because he is, of course, lacking a sword.
Yeah.
Alright, but with that, you know, that is a crystal number 4 already on Tato's side. This also being the second 5/6 crystal, certainly would not be surprised if Teto wants, in this case, to combine, in this case, to, you know, Pyramid Big Bomb, you know, maybe with also the Pyramid check itself.
Yeah, and he's out of here.
Alright.
Teto does what Teto does best.
That's right.
And it's a very reasonable choice. Like, he has so much open at this point. He can, like, the backup pot isn't logic. He can full clear ice. Not that he really wants to, but it's definitely a lot more appealing than spending a few minutes for 2 items.
Yeah, and actually, and I think we mentioned maybe just like to kind of recap and maybe take stock, or slightly over like the hour mark at this race, right? So in terms of items, I think we might be set. Oh, there's another 5th pod key on Shady's side. But I think right now we're just kind of missing a couple big keys for go mode.
Yeah, and that's not one of them.
Well, okay, so you have the big key to to Hera. You have the small key to Hera. Do you have any incentive to go back if you're Shady?
Not until late.
Okay. Perfectly reasonable. Oh, but there is a big key. That is
that's
a very important big key. And okay, all right. So Pyramid Fairy is basically just a Thieves Town key cave tier today. I think. Do you have a guess for where Tato's gonna go next? As he's already fluted over here.
Never seen someone go to a dungeon so fast.
Yeah. So at this point, then, are we basically just going? Do we just need what? Desert Palace big key?
And a Master Sword, yeah.
Oh yeah, and a Master Sword. Yeah. Man, this game is the seed is only actually shaped up to be, I would say pretty quick. Now, granted, Desert Palace big key is not something that is considered to be like a well, it doesn't lock very much, right? So it can certainly still be pretty elusive. But the fact that we basically are in basically Desert Palace big key mode, go mode, and a sword certainly could mean that the seed can finish up pretty quickly.
Yeah, like if it's like if a sword is here in the attic and Desert Big is in the basement, then yeah, we'll see it done very fast.
Yeah. Now, of course, we do also have the entirety of Desert inside of itself as well. We don't have the small key, I guess, so maybe that does limit a bit of our options. But there's nothing really saying that the Desert Palace keys can't be inside Desert. What's up, Barry?
Yeah, we do have a small key for Desert.
Oh,
it wasn't.
Yeah. Sorry, right. Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I just can't read the track. Yeah, so never mind. We certainly can have a bit more access inside Desert itself.
Yeah. Teto, for the coming few minutes, will just be full clearing the rest of the Water Crystal dungeons. Like Feast Town is completely clearable. Oh, we are seeing some silver action. Oh, never mind.
Nice.
It's over. But yeah, he can do Skullwoods now as well. So that's.
Oh right, yeah, that's right.
And he hasn't been there at all.
Yeah, and certainly, given that we still, especially on Tato's side, he has like 2 or 3, crystal dungeons that he's just basically able to full clear. Certainly very viable, that a sword and hopefully the Desert Palace Vicky will just kind of show up on the side. Now, of course, we do have silvers, so being on, just Master Sword and silvers, is it going to be too big of a deal, or too bad, just because Phase 4 is kind of already immediately alleviated? We would like to hardly see a 3rd sword, but kind of given how stingy the swords have been this entire seed, I don't know, that might be like, asking for too much.
Yeah, the problem is that we still just have quite a bit left. there's still a lot of unchecked dungeons and all that. We haven't been in Ice, we haven't been in Mire, the swords could just be there. It could be 2 in GT, who knows?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, I guess also one of the, benefits, I guess, of being, full key sanity is that, once you find the GT big key, right, you can basically just go straight up, don't have to go to the basement. On the flip side, the double-edged sword is that if you're still missing something like that, then you're automatically posed with kind of like a very difficult decision, right? Because like, do you search the basement? How much of the basement do you search if you're looking for stuff? Especially if it's a sword, right? And it's not quite as easy in this case.
Yeah, this definitely makes sense for Shady. Just go back to pod. It's Pyramid Fairy Crystal. Can actually full clear it now, so just be thorough and do what we probably need to do anyway.
Oh yeah. And of course, right, we saw Tato's side that Pyramid Fairy is pretty dang required because we found both our Thieves Town big key and Thieves Town small key as part of our bounty. One kind of maybe interesting note though, is that you mentioned earlier that like Teto is basically in dungeon clearing mode, right? He's got he's got Skullwoods, he's on the table for him. Shady though, is gonna be here clearing out pod. Not sure when Teto, if he decides to come back here for like the kind of like the straggler checks, right? Vanilla big key, harmless hellwood chests. I don't think in this case that Teto had access to them.
Yeah, it might be after this. Wouldn't be too unreasonable. But who knows? Like ice might be a higher priority for him at this point. He doesn't have a whole lot of like dense overworld left, so it's definitely going to be like dungeons, and he might even just go to desert next.
Oh, just hoping that like the big key is there, right? Oh, but you know what? Oh, wait, no, that's right. That was a Swamp Palace big key. That's right. Shady was here earlier. Yeah.
That probably doesn't feel too good for him, though.
That's true. It was a pretty much Sphere 1 location, you know, being in Skull Woods. But you know, like, he's already skipped left side. If he has at least any more, I guess, incentive to go back, this might help him out. Oh, she's just barely missed that hand.
A little close.
Alright, so speaking of potentially another, you know, low-ish equipment offense fight here, Teto is in the back, gonna try and take on Makula. He does the hammer, at least. Certainly could make his life a little bit nicer, but we are still on Fighter Sword. No real half magic or anything like that, but hopefully Teto's gonna have some amount of a couple of Fire Rod shots, right? Just kind of dislodge Moth if he really needs to.
Yeah. Like health-wise, we're at least very safe. The fight definitely gets a lot more dangerous the longer it goes, and with our current equipment, it can take a while. But as long as Teto gets some good angles with the hammer hits, he should be more than fine.
As we just kind of get, man, bullied by these rope boys, and everything in the dark world just hits for so hard.
So Shady now got his 4th crystal, so he's a little bit more than a crystal behind. Maybe even 2 if you consider getting the feast down big and small in Pyramid Fairy as a little bit extra. So he is going to need Desert Big to be kind of out of the way in order to have a chance, because Teto's route has just been so good. He's quite a bit ahead now.
Yeah. I mean, not only there's kind of like a very visual difference, right? You know, the fact that Teto is even holding out his fighter sword, you know, doesn't even have Shady can't even have that option just because, you know, I guess Teto, you know, kind of remembered into routing hammer pegs and when he was over in the Village of Outcast area, but also, you know, even like with something like Pyramid Fairy, right? You know, Teto finished a pod very early on, kind of made that decision, but then also immediately when he finished up Swamp, he was just basically, you know, able to kind of directly go over to Pyramid Fairy. It's going to be another kind of like another, you know, screen transition down to the light world, you know, for Shady. Just going to be a very, you know, minor time loss compared to Teto.
Yeah, definitely.
Alright, speaking of though, you know, Teto holding out that hammer in order to try and take down Moth. That is his next crystal on the board. You talking about Teto being on fire, man? Like this is he's not slowing down, Ari.
No, he's a man on a mission right now, and like, he's definitely been making such a great name for himself over the past few months, and yeah, he's been playing a ton as well.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
that is a Master Sword. Oh man. Alright, so that's really great to see on Teto's side. I don't know if Shady is willing to take a risk that in order to come back here to the back of Skull Woods for that first sword.
Very unlikely. Oh, no. but that's gonna be his first one.
Oh my gosh, Shady, thank you. All right, oh, this is really great news for Shady. This has to be hammer pegs. He probably did remember.
Yeah.
And Shady also remembering that you can't item dash without that sword. So we're still gonna have to, in this case, hammer down the pegs, you know, kind of like the old-fashioned way, but he is going to be so handsomely rewarded. Hope they won't be kicking himself too hard once he ends up fighting his first sword here.
that was definitely
the hesitation. Oh man.
I can kind of imagine Shady's voice, like, kind of. Oh wow! Okay, Teto.
Oh wow, dude. Okay, well, so I guess technically we could have still had that sword a little bit earlier, just because we did have the Desert Palace small key and early access to desert. But again, like not too much incentive to come here, especially when it's kind of out of the way.
Yeah, for sure, and it was in Turtle Rock, which we went to pretty late, so. But we are at least finally able to play the game with ease now. Like, Tempered Sword is definitely the luxury item. And, well, that's our 5 pot smalls for Teto as well at this point. So, At this point, he might actually go to pod, get his Quake, and then feel incentivized to go to Mire. But Ice is still on the table as well.
Yeah, man, I mean, that quick medallion. I don't know. I mean, maybe like Tatum was kind of hoping that he never has to see that quick medallion, because that just basically means that he can't have to go into Mire in this case in order to kind of make a difficult decision.
Yeah. Well.
Speaking of, Teto is back here in pod. Yeah. Alright, of course, yeah, Shady is very, very closely behind though here. By picking up his Master Sword, he is going to be super happy. At least for him, swords are basically kind of like back-to-back, but amazing is seeing that Master Sword, and actually a little bit of contrast between him and Teto is that he's going to have Master Sword for this fight, versus Teto still have the Fighter Sword. So actually going to be a bit safer for Shady as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Teto is going to do after this, and if when Shady decides to go to Pyramid Ferry, because with that, like, Shady has quite a few like completable options right now between the two big pendant dungeons and Pyramid Ferry.
Oh yeah, that's true. And of course, we know from there's a lamp for Teto. Teto's like, oh, thank you. I just got through basically all the dark rooms except for Mire. Thanks, lamp. But I was gonna say, yeah, like we know from Teto's side that both the Feast Town, Small Key, and Big Key are in Pyramid Ferry, so that is something that he does have to go do. Maybe he'll try to do it on the earlier side, at least then you'll have a completable crystal dungeon that he can have an option for, versus trying to make some decisions between some pendant dungeons, like Ice and Mire. I guess, like, to try and, maybe list out a couple more maybe less pleasant options. We do have a Castle Tower Small Key, so the second chest of Castle Tower I think is available to us. Shady does have the Hera Big Key from Left Side Swamp that Teto, still at this point, does not have. Coupled with that Hera Small Key, that is going to be something that at least maybe is on Shady's mind.
Yeah, those are definitely options that if Shady is feeling really behind, he might commit to, just over the denser pendant dungeons. That wouldn't be the worst option at some point.
Mm-hmm. Actually, out of curiosity, do you know if we've seen Spike Cave yet?
No, we have not actually.
Okay. So that could be another option as well. Again, it's not a very, fast check, but it's still, I guess, another option that is available to you.
Yeah, and you can kind of combine all those options, right? You can do the two Hera checks, and then Agate Tower into Spy Cave. But all of those individually are just kind of a time sink, and combined, it's not much better.
All right, Teto, finishing up his full clear of pod in the back. He is presented with he is presented now with Mire access. Shady is going to pick up his Temper Sword. Please, I went through over an hour of swordless just to have basically 3 swords back to back. First choice for both Teto and Shady. We are going into Ice Palace first.
Yeah, on the hunt for one big key for Teto. Shady still needs 2 of them. We know where one of them is, but yeah, we'll have to see how much time Shady can gain over the course of the hunt.
Yeah, and of course, you did mention earlier, right? So right now, for Teto, and probably presumably soon for Shady, is that you're gonna have to basically make some decisions, about which pendant dungeon you want to dive. So, for example, if the Desert Palace Big Key is in Mire, right, and that's where he goes, kind of after, Pyramid Ferry or Feast Town, or maybe even immediately, right? That's certainly gonna be, a good amount of time, saved over Teto. Nice icebreaker on Teto's side. Yeah, thank you, Kana Samaria, that we ended up picking up. It certainly does make going through Ice Palace a bit easier. Speaking of Mire, we have some diversions, Ari.
Yeah, this could be really good. could also be really, really bad.
Yeah, we don't know what the right answer is. We're just going to get out our popcorn and basically see in this case, which at least none of them have to be right, I guess. Like the Desert Palace, but he doesn't have to be here in mire or ice.
No, for sure. And how do you say this? Like the problem is that even if Shady does find the desert big, he still needs to find the thieves big as well.
Oh, yeah.
And, like the more items he finds, the more he could be led away from Pyramid Ferry. So
yeah, because like for Teto, he did Swamp Palace immediately beforehand, so he was even like on like the right screen, right? Literally just dash up, and Shady, in order to even like start the pyramid, pyramid fairy sequence, he has to start at his house, go to the light world, go get the big bomb, and then kind of run back up. And Shady also kind of is a little bit disincentivized just because he's already checked the pyramid item as well. Teto didn't even have that option, so it was even more efficient for Teto to combine those checks.
Yeah, definitely. Alright. Time to see what these checks have in store for us.
Yeah, Shady also doing the half magic's really nice, but also Shady is also doing the vanilla big key chest kind of early on. I mean, do you know if this is kind of like typical for routing in mire?
Yeah, kind of. It's the most efficient route in order to full clear. Like you go straight left, do the two like firelock chests first, and then kind of make one big circle.
I see. Okay, this is good knowledge. Thank you. Alright, though Teto unfortunately looks like, well, there is still the option of Cold Stare. He did find half magic here in Ice Palace. So certainly will make, at least the remainder of his game, kind of nice.
Yeah, no, there's gonna be no problems equipment-wise.
But unfortunately, not quite the Desert Palace of Big Key that both runners in this case are searching for. In addition, of course, to the Thief's Town Big Key that Shady is looking for, which we of course know is at Pyramid Ferry. Oh, right! Actually, Teto reminding us that, or at least reminding me, that Ice Palace is also a green pendant, so that is also an additional check. Maybe that's also more incentive for him to do Ice Palace as well.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well, you were definitely right about potential another sword being here in mire because Shady just picked up our gold sword. Shady's like, I was swordless for 75 minutes of this game, and then for the next 15 minutes I found 4 swords.
It's definitely the fastest 0 to 4 that I've seen.
Alright, Teto here is now back into... Yeah,
okay, he's not gonna commit to Vidi. Interesting. Okay. What is next though? Are we just gonna see ice now? Kind of would follow suit, and yeah. Definitely makes sense. Yeah. For Shady, the best option would obviously be Hera Big Chest. Just by virtue of Teto never coming back to Left Side Swamp.
Yeah, and we kind of just see from, on Shady's, or on Teto's side that, after Teto basically cleared out, the entirety of Ice Palace, pretty much was just, well, I guess he got red mail and he got, half magic to his name. Certainly some really nice safeties and luxuries, but, Shady's not basically going to find what he is looking for here in Ice.
No, there's going to be some luxury items. There wasn't even, like, any, like, what's there, a mire small key? That's it?
Oh yeah, that could have been.
But yeah, other than that,
Teto reminding himself that he does, yes, need to hit the switch first, even though he did light all the torches. But yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. So as in terms about efficiency, it looks like at least Teto and Shady are kind of going over to the right side first, or yeah, the left side first. Or not. Teto's just going to do the compass chest and then and then go back over.
Yeah, this route can save Shady a little bit of time. If Teto does decide to do cutscene chests late and then still go to Vidi, that'll definitely cost a couple of minutes. And if it doesn't pay it off, then yeah, Shady might slowly but surely crawl his way back into this race.
Yeah, and I think maybe this particular route for Teto certainly could be reasonable for him, just because so it's like for Shady, he is 2 big keys away from go mode, right? So I think he is heavily incentivized to try and be more still as efficient as possible. Teto is just looking for 1 big key in this case, and he might not feel so great if he ends up doing like the cutscene chest, only to find like the Desert Palace big key like 2 checks later in Liar.
Yeah, very true. Nice refill for Teto, though.
That's true. That's true. We're going straight to the back though, to Vitreous. Teto, I guess, is going to make that investment. Although he did pick up the green pendant, right? He didn't immediately turn that in. I guess.
No.
Yeah. Is that normal?
I kind of follow what Bueno always says. Like, if you do green pendant, immediately turn it in, because otherwise you're just gonna delay it longer and longer and longer. It's like, oh, I can do that in a bit. I can do that in a bit, because you just keep putting it off for denser checks. But it's a little bit of a problem sometimes that you just keep putting stuff off that you kind of know you should have done like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Alright, well, I mean, I guess, so right, and especially in this case, like, I guess we don't know necessarily what's on Vitreous here, on Tato's side, but, especially if, that's probably Vicky just sitting on the green pendant, Tato might feel a little bit, silly. Oh no. Okay, alright, so thank you, Half Magic. The good thing we picked that up in Ice Palace.
Alright, we made it.
Good job, Tato. We're on to the next screen. That's right.
Hey, Chada's definitely making a good point as well, that they might just want to wait a little bit until they find Eastern big, just so they can get baited into doing more pendant dungeons.
Eastern big, right. So also, like, Eastern, is a pendant as well, right? I mean, for all we know, like, there are also, 22 items in the basement, of GT, and like Eastern Palace Big Key certainly could be there.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not even super unlikely at this rate. We don't have that many checks left.
Yeah, that's true. All right, Tato taking down Vitreous with silver arrows. Pretty dang fast fight. Oh, it's a big key. Oh my gosh.
Oh, there it is.
The desert. Oh my gosh. All right, well, Tato has, in this case, made the right decision for Meyer, and taking down Vitreous. He is now going to clear out Desert Palace for his last crystal, and then we're just going to go straight up GT. Don't even need to worry about the basement.
Yeah, very nice route for Teto. And yeah, from Shady's point of view, like, the decisions definitely made sense, and you can't blame him for skipping Vidi at this point. But yeah, just didn't pan out. He still needs to find the Thieves Big as well, which kind of seems like he's going to now.
Yeah, that definitely looks like what it is.
But it's too little, too late, and after that, it's just gonna be so long before he goes back to Vidi. Like, we might even see all the Hera and surrounding checks at this point as well.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, because especially, you did mention, Shady might actually be aware of, Tato's tendency, in this case, to skip out on left side swamp, so certainly that actually could be a very good out for Shady if he's maybe thinking about that, right? It's like, well, I know that for sure I got the Hera Big Key out of left side swamp. Chances are Tato doesn't have it, so that could actually be, something in my favor. As opposed to, I'm going to go back to Vitreous, which I have, at least made the conscious decision of not going back there for. That's really be less incentivizing.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, at this rate, it's gonna be pretty likely that Teto will actually finish before Shady finds his big key. Just gonna need to clear the rest of Feasttown first, and then yeah, it's not too unlikely that we're gonna see the rest of Death Mountain.
Yeah, and hopefully maybe Shady also isn't kicking himself too much. I mean, it's rando, right? He can't control. No one can really control like where the items and keys are located or placed. The fact that we do see in this case a Thievestown keys like here means that he could have actually ended up going to like a crystal dungeon as opposed to like a pendant dungeon. Pendant dungeons. Are we going to? Oh, he's gonna turn the green pendant. Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought I was gonna do it at first, but then he was actually on his way to Hobo instead, which I didn't realize was still unchecked for him as well. But yeah, but at this point, Teto has 7 crystals, and he'll be on his way to GT, which is conveniently located where Agate's tower usually is.
And that's right. A added bonus of inverted is that you only really need to climb the mountain like 10 times in the early to mid game. Once we kind of get to the end game, as you said, because in this case Ganon's tower and Agate tower are swap locations, it is certainly not too bad in actually in order to get into GT. I do see some numbers coming in here in chat. In this case, we don't unfortunately can play a game today just because Teto has already found the GT key. So with nothing else basically to look for, he has Gold Sword that he picked up in Mark. He has Half Magic that he found Ice Palace. We have Silvers. I don't think he really needs much else in terms of safety.
No, we're gonna go straight there.
Yeah.
There's nothing to look for at this point.
Yeah, also according to, Nervin Deutsch, checking off all of the stuff, for us, on this tracker, we also do see that he does have powder from the front of Escape. We have 3 bottles, apparently, at least one of them, I think, has a potion in there. So yeah, Teto is in very good position right now. Yeah, for silver arrows, Teto's also demonstrating kind of earlier on, what Shady was showcasing earlier, just the power of silver arrows. Shady used them to take down ball and chain guards. Teto also, of course, using them to take down the red mimics basically in one shot. Certainly a lot more nicer versus like the very 2 arrows that we have to go hit, especially with those BMOs kind of poking around.
Yeah. He probably actually wants to get rid of his beams for a gauntlet, but
that's also a good point.
But equipment-wise, yeah, this should be a breeze, and Teto has more than enough experience to have no issues at all with this.
Yeah, I mean, considering actually, what the C kind of forced them to do, earlier on, right? Like, especially, for at least with Teto, right? He got his first sword at the 50-minute mark. He had done at that point swordless Trinix, with the hammer. He was fortunate to have a fighter sword for Argus, but still, no real swords. He has fighter sword for Mothula. I mean, these are some pretty, challenging fights, right? Without even a master sword to his name. And then suddenly, of course, we ended up finding, 3 swords in the next 15 minutes, so maybe the game is saying, you know what, you've been challenged enough, here's some reward, as he kind of waltz across the finish line here.
Yeah, exactly. So while Teto is climbing GT, Shady's picking up his 6th crystal, and then, yeah, I'm just very curious to see what he's gonna do next. It's very, very unlikely to matter in the grand scheme of things, but it's just always fun seeing what people do in the face of adversity, right?
Oh yeah, this is when we put on our best smiles. But it is really going to be very interesting to kind of see in this case, what the strategy, that Shady also has as well.
Yeah. And it's important to note that this race is only game 1 in a best of 3.
That's right.
So Shady will definitely have a chance to come back in game 2 and the potential third one. But...
Yeah, no, for sure. And this is actually, kind of I would say a nicety, of this particular tournament format. It is best of 3. There's certainly been many cases where, potentially runners have been randoed, just because of, one particular, maybe 2, item locations, right? You flip a coin, you lose the coin toss, and then suddenly now you're out of the tournament, right? Best of 3 kind of gives you that additional, safety, right? So both you and your opponent can get randoed.
Oh yeah.
Alright, Moldorm not being exactly the nicest at Teto, but no worries, because, Teto's safely across the bridge, or the gap. But yeah, I think you mentioned this earlier, right? So we're kind of seeing, Shady back on the mountain, maybe considering to do a couple more mountain checks before kind of being, just back over to the Mire area. Yeah, so we did see him. Oh, Shady, yeah. Remember, he does have the second chest of Castle Tower. Did see him just do Spike Cave for 20 rupees. And then presumably, maybe since he's up here, he was actually going to go over to um, East Death Mountain first. Before kind of remembering this, means that he might be looking at Hera.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know what Shady has left aside from Hera and Myra at this point. So definitely a rough situation, and he probably feels okay. Well, if it's Hera, then I still have a chance because Tato's probably never gonna do left side swamp. And
Right,
if it's in Myra, I lost anyway. So
yeah. Yeah, and this is also kind of like one of like the strategies, I guess, for playing in like a 1v1, just because kind of like contrast to qualifiers, right? You typically maybe don't put yourself in as many if the item is in this location, I've already lost type of situations, and you try to maybe be a bit more conservative. But at this point, you just have to try and beat one person, and if you definitely want to play to your outs.
yeah, it's just very easy to overestimate how fast your opponent is and how efficient they are at times. So sometimes saying if it's here, I lost anyway. It's just not true until like 20 minutes later. But yeah, that's rando. You just kind of have to constantly weigh your odds, and it's a hard game.
It is, right? Yeah, I mean, not only like you're racing, but this is actually especially this is a main tournament brackets race. The pressure and kind of like the stakes are certainly not low.
Oh no,
So
for sure.
yeah, right? You talked about, I think, people, especially on Teto, when he first did his ice Trinex, or not ice Trinex, hammer Trinex fight, right? Trying to basically keep his head down and focus and not panic, right? You have to basically do that for the entirety of the game here.
Yeah, but yeah, stay calm and play well. He did for pretty much the entire seed, and yeah, that Ganon was no exception. So put some GGs in chat for Tato, finishing off the seed with a nice low 135.
Yeah, for inverted keys, this is actually, quite the nice finish time for Teto. Yeah, definitely get your G's out. Teto played very well in this particular race.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so Shady is gonna climb up the mountain. We do see again just how much time investment it is in order to get back here. But again, this is part of, I think, Shady playing to his potential route to victory. Again, for Teto, for basically not to have the Hera Big Key, certainly could be something that's viable for Shady.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, these runners, yeah, especially just at some point in brackets, like everybody knows each other and really starts to know each other's tendencies. So at this point, Shady's probably like, "Yep, this is my only out," and if it's not here, then maybe I'll just check race time PGs, see if they're already finished.
Yeah, no, that's really very true. Now, of course, like logically speaking, right? You are, expected to have the Hera Big Key, before end up, in this case, claiming Hera as a crystal. But of course, we just see, of course, early on for both Shady and Teto that you don't really need, like the Big Key in order to kind of climb up the tower. But looks like, yeah, Shady probably opting to not wanting to sit through a tile room in Hera basement. This does look like a forfeit from Shady, and. Potentially being just able to get ready for game 2. So get your G's out in chat for Shady. He did also play phenomenally well this particular race. But again, just happens to be in this case, one or two decisions that kind of just like swung the race.
Yeah, it was some early decisions that like let Shady just trail Tato for just the majority of the seed, and yeah, Tato just hit the route and played well next to that, and yeah, just unfortunate, but doesn't mean that Shady is out of it at all.
Oh no, for sure. Right, you mentioned this is a best of 3. So, and I believe they have their games scheduled. I want to say Tuesday and Wednesday. Would have to check the exact times, but it's certainly Very viable for basically Shady to do like a reverse sweep. Of course, that Teto probably doesn't want that, but it's certainly not out of the Shady's definitely not out of the running for this tournament. Let's see if in this case we can maybe get our runners in here for a chat. Hello, Teto. GG's on your victory today.
Tonight? Wait a sec.
I said today. I didn't say this morning.
Wait, but yeah, GG's and thanks for having me. Hey, Clearmouse and hey, Abby. Oh yeah, playing in the early hours of the day. That's like, I think it was Shady's idea. He was like, it's way too early for randomizer, and yeah, we knew that the inf keys would have been the highest probability because both of us hadn't played in single inf keys in the tournament so far. So, geez, Shady.
Joined by Shady as well. GG's.
Yo, GG Teto.
Yo, GG Shady.
So it's like playing inf keys early in the morning. Oh, please don't. I don't want to think too much.
In the morning, dude. Oh, you guys are in Europe. I thought it was early for for rando time zone, but I was reading race chat and I was like, wait, you guys both said good morning to each other, and then it's like, oh, it's too early to think about inverted keys. I was like, what?
It's Sunday 2 p.m. It's like, yeah, the day hasn't started long ago, so it's still fresh in the morning.
Okay, that kind of makes some sense. But yeah, that was a very enjoyable race to watch. Some great gameplay for the both of you. Just yeah, it was for a key sanity seed. It definitely felt like everything was kind of on the way, wasn't it? Until the desert big key.
My routing wasn't that great. I felt like, oh, you could have skipped major items. Oh, there's the firewall. I forgot the smith chain early on. So, oh, there's the powder and the shovel. So, oh, at least I can route it back in, get the firewall. And I never played Skyward's Front. So, I wasn't sure about this. So many little mistakes, and I had to hope that their last key might be a little bit off the way, and if Shady is going to full clear everything, that this could be my only chance. And I think the decision Ice Palace versus Misery Maya, it's like totally understandable that you don't go for Viti if you have Ice Palace open.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, other than that, the big point of the seed was probably just the general lack of swords until like all the swords were in logic all of a sudden.
Yeah, I have to ask Shady, like, did you end up just maybe like just forgetting about like hammer pegs or anything like that? Because I know you used Smith chain early.
Yeah, it's like, I think that's probably the only mistake I'm really annoyed about this seed was like forgetting hammer pegs. There was two of them actually. I also forgot to check Spectacle Rock Cave early when I went to Temple Mountain, because when you don't rescue the old man, you can check it early, and I just forgot. And that didn't punish, but forgetting to check hammer pegs, I kind of got distracted by what I was doing after a Smith sequence, so I just kind of forgot to check it. And obviously you get maximally punished, because if I get the sword there, I go to Skullwoods and I get the second sword right away, and then I'm not doing the slowest fit Argus fight known to man, and everything's better. But so that was the most annoying thing. The reason I did Mire before Ice Palace is because I want to check Desert first, because I want to do both checks, and if the key's in Mire, I'm right there next to Desert. So I thought that was a better way around of doing it. But
makes
a little bit more efficient, yeah.
Yeah, but like at the time I was like, well, Tito's definitely not doing Vidi, so I'm skipping Vidi too. But I didn't really consider that Teto might have done Ice Palace first. And I thought if he had done Ice Palace first and the answer was there, I was kind of dead anyway. But so it's just the way it goes. I'm not really annoyed about that decision. I just, I wish I knew where the items were, but unfortunately I don't. And the items are always in the last place you go to.
Crazy concept, isn't it? Yeah.
I know, right?
This is so much rando, yeah.
So like Hera was a bit of an out. I don't know about Turtle Rock. I don't know if Teto full cleared Turtle Rock when he was there. I decided to leave the 2 slow checks and just get everything else.
Yeah. I got the mirror pretty late, so I played the mountain first early on and did everything without the mirror. And after I got the mirror, I could full clear TR, so I just did that.
Yeah, I did like the back TR and then I did the front and then I kind of skipped the two in the middle one and just carried on then. But I ended up going back later just before Hera. Maybe I should have gone straight to Hera. Maybe that was more of an out, but not that
Yeah,
it mattered really.
I mean, I went Terror without the fire source and just going for the boss and be like, yeah, you can check the tablet and go for the density. So the early game felt pretty okay with the mids on the Light World Mountain and everything like that. But as you mentioned before, like rescuing the old man later on, so you can play a little bit efficiently more the Light World checks on the mountain. So yeah, it's like inverted isn't my cup of tea, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know.
luckily. Go ahead, Shady. Sorry.
Nah, just that I'm mostly happy with the decisions I made. A few little mistakes, but it doesn't really matter. Really, it's just go to where the items are, and if you don't, you lose. So.
That's random, definitely. But luckily for Teto, at least game 2 won't be inverted keys.
That's true.
I don't know what cards are gonna come back into the pool at this rate, but at least it's not gonna be inverted.
I think it still can be inverted.
Yeah, it's our first inverted key, so it's like 1-1 on the clock for each of us. So
Yeah, but
But it's your last race, right?
Yeah, the last race counts double, right?
Right. Yeah. So you should have nothing for game
can't?
2.
Okay.
Hmm.
It's like every participant in those tournaments never read the rules, so I'm sorry for that. It's like we experienced the same with the German tournament. Like we are going for the rule sets and typing out everything in the rules and still getting the same questions answered in the rule set. So yeah.
Yeah, we're just paid here to show up and play rando, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah. Either way, what mode are you looking forward to for game 2 then? Is there anything that you feel like you would have an edge against each other, or do you not want to spill the beans just yet?
I mean, we can't decide at all, so it's like I think Shady got a little bit more experience in keys in general. So this could be on the one hand my weak spot, on the other hand, like today, it's the one key and you just get it earlier. So I'm free for a normal open mode. Something like 52 minutes or so. Sorry, Eri.
That's wouldn't it?
Oh wow! I can't wait for the Eri Teto bracket match.
Oh, we're playing again this. I mean, we're playing again this week in Ladder as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's
I
true.
said nothing. I said nothing. Karma, please.
Yeah, we'll see how that one goes. But I mean, like as long as I win against Humbug and Relkin, then it doesn't matter what I do against you. And then we can face off in the finals, and then I can finally win.
Just for the off-topic talk, I shouldn't have survived week 1 at all. So it's like a surprise getting 1 week way further in the tournament and going on and on. So whatever happens, it happens.
Yeah, but anyway, if we face each other in this tournament, it will be in the finals. So we're on opposite sides of the
Yeah,
brackets.
sure. That's a high possibility.
Who knows? Rando will be rando. But either way, yeah, thanks to the both of you for such an amazing race.
Yeah,
anything else to?
Currently, yeah, like you wanted to say, it's like we are still in the one of the top 64, and with Shady, it's such a strong matchup here, and I think it's going to go the full distance over 3 games, to be fair. I wouldn't expect less.
Yeah, we'll see. Next one's on Tuesday, I think, at a more normal time for any American viewers. Unfortunately, I think like even though it was kind of early, like I did quite enjoy like the early afternoon match because otherwise, you know, I'm free in the afternoon and it's like normally I'm waiting until the evening before all the races and stuff starts happening, and it's good to get a race out of the way and it's nice and chill and early. So
Yeah,
so I'm still glad we did
stay
it.
open.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, the next one's Tuesday. I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern. Is that right, Tito?
Yeah, 10 p.m. CST.
10 p.m. Yeah, 10 p.m. your time. Yeah.
Yeah, but earlier overseas. Weird times. Time zones.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's like talking EDT all the time. It might be easier, but if there are people facing off from the same continent, it's like so. What we're gonna use now? CST, EDT, moon time. I mean, we will check out later.
Yeah, just thanks for covering it, Eri and Mouse and Nevin Deutsch and the SpeedGaming crew. and maybe I'll watch it back. Although I don't usually watch back races I lose because I'm too depressed, but maybe I'll watch it back anyway.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
thanks to two of you.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just too early for YouTube, right? It's quite early here in Rando time zone as well. But yeah. So like, I think a lot of people are rooting for you, Shady, to clutch out a victory over Teto for game 2, so we can all four have a game 3. Teto, I think you are in the minority here, but certainly if you want to try and get a 2-0, good luck to you as well.
All we want is more rando.
That's right. Especially for Teto versus Shady, right? I mean, these are some really good matchups.
Yeah. On my end, it was a blast to commentate for two good friends, and I had a lot of fun watching. Looking forward to the next one, but good luck to the both of you. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for now, isn't it, Clear Mouse? Thank you so much for co-commenting and asking me to commentate.
Yeah, this was so awesome. I was so happy that we were able to do this. So thank you so much, Ari. Definitely looking forward to the next time, of course. I would also like to thank our tracker Nervenjosh for clicking everything. I mean, this guy knows his way around the tracker, all the keys, all the items, everything. Thank you so much. Very, very nice being able to basically keep everything in line for us. In terms of actually Rando's schedule, if you actually just sit tight for about 10-ish minutes, there is a game, Fred Coughlin versus Scottish Brave on SpeedGaming 2 coming up. That is also another round of 64 at 12:10 p.m. Eastern. In about 2 hours, there is Wallkicks versus Red Kitsune on SpeedGaming 3, and then also Big Dunker versus Killer App on SpeedGaming 5. So plenty more rando got to throughout the day, but certainly keep your eyes on the schedule. And yeah, we definitely got pretty, I think, lucky with this one, just because it was kind of like the first one of the day, starting out pretty early, and you have the rest of the day in this case in order to watch a bunch more rando. So
yeah. Definitely looking forward to Scottish Brave versus F. Coughlin. Like, it's a game 3. Scottish Brave has been on the up and coming and has been performing super well this tournament, so be sure to tune in on that one. And, yeah, I guess have a great rest of the weekend all. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, enjoy. See you later.